The journey is conversations with ordinary people about stories of transformation and how we may have had setbacks in our life and how we persevered through those, how we've learned from those obstacles, and how they've maybe helped us on our path today.
Well, welcome to the journey. My name is Kevin Polkey, and I am the host of the journey. And today we are going to have another reflection on something, an idea, a philosophy that I have been drawn to and attracted to the majority of my life. I remember first hearing about this idea in the concept of Stoicism when I was a freshman in high school. When we were in English class, we were studying Julius Caesar, and this idea uh, of Brutus being part of his belief system was that he was a Stoic. And that was the first time that I had first was introduced to this idea of Stoicism. And like many people, I think was misunderstanding what was this idea behind Stoicism. I thought at the time that it was this idea of showing no emotions or feelings, to in my mind suppress those emotions or feelings, and to not show anger or fear or sadness, or even for that matter joy, to be void of any type of emotional response or reaction. Later, about 9 years ago or so, maybe even 10 years ago, I was introduced to Ryan Holiday. Corbin Tyson had um, first introduced me to it through his interest in uh, the ego is the enemy, and in one of Ryan Holiday's books. And then later I read that book along with The Obstacle is the Way and Stillness is the Key, with the first of the three books that I read by Holiday. That spurred on my interest of through Holiday's work, spurred on my interest to learn more about it. One of the individuals that are um, most well known for Stoicism is Marcus Aurelius. And one of his famous um, books or writings is called Meditations, and it's Marcus Aurelius Meditations. And one of the quotes he is most well known for is this quote, and I'll read it to you. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Let me read Aurelius's quote again. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. How they took that and also looked at it from the idea that the obstacle that we face in our life becomes the way. Well, how does this? How does this happen? How does it happen in my life? Um, my first tendency is to want to resist or avoid obstacles, which I think is pretty normal, pretty common. I can spend a lot of energy um, thinking about something that may come up, planning for something, attempting to avoid certain things. I think this is can be common. That as we look at our weather apps to try to determine what is the weather outlook, what's the forecast, depending on what we have going on. No matter how many times we look at that app, we aren't going to be able to change the weather. What it will allow us to do is to have a response to the weather conditions. And if that is part of what this idea is this how the obstacle becomes the way, that how the obstacle can very well become the teacher. It's my response to the obstacle and looking at the obstacle as having an opportunity to learn something more about myself that I wouldn't have had the opportunity to do if the obstacle wasn't there. So again, I don't believe it's this idea of wishing for obstacles to be there. I think life, in the nature of how life is, the obstacles will come. We don't have to go looking for them. We don't have to go wishing for them to happen. That when we are being present and mindful, being in the moment, when an obstacle does happen, I can then be of present mind to how is this going to be an opportunity for me to grow? How is this going to be an opportunity for it to teach me something about myself and for me to grow and develop as a result of it? So I think having this mindset that Marcus Aurelius invites us into, this idea that the impediment to action actually can advance our action. What stands in the way may actually be the path for growth and development. It becomes the way. As you attempt to incorporate this into your life more and more, I would encourage you uh, to be encouraged that when we face great obstacles, to pause for a moment and go, how is this going to be maybe a great opportunity for growth and development? Not to take away from the suffering that happens in the midst of it, but knowing that the story isn't over just because of the suffering happening right now. That there may be a greater opportunity for growth and development, and how this obstacle can be a teacher. As always, I appreciate you being here and look forward to being with you next week.